Mike, hey, congratulations on your new film, Stealing Jokes.
Thank you very much, man.
No, I really appreciate it. I know you're on tour somewhere, and you have I don't know how you find the manage to find the time to speak and promote a film like Stealing Joke, which is hilarious, by the way.
Thank you very much. Yeah, the new Zoom world, I could be anywhere in a hotel, in a random city, in the forest. It doesn't even matter at this point. You could juggle multiple things. But yeah, stealing jokes is out, and people are digging it, and I'm super excited about it. And I'm on tour. I'm on tour, and hopefully I don't have to rob a comedy club while I'm out here.
So tell us what sparked the story that of Stealing Jokes for you.
I always, touring as a comedian, you're kind of alone. A lot of times, a club promoter and owner you have no way of proving what they made that night. So, like, sometimes they're going to say, "Oh, we got beat on liquor sales. I can't pay you your 5,000. Can I give you 3,000 and some sneakers? Can I give you a trip to Vegas and some vintage coins?" And so, comedians for years have been looked at as if you could kind of like stiff us a little bit. And so the sentiment was always there. And then in the last like 2 years, I got to open for a big, big comedian. And I sort of was looking around the arena and I was kind of thinking to myself, he's getting paid $100,000 tonight. They got me opening for $500. There's got to be a safe in this building. And so that was sort of the idea that I had in my head, and a light bulb went off, and I was like, I have to write a movie about comedians getting their revenge and getting the money that they're owed from the club owner. And I literally just went to the table and I started writing the movie, and I knocked it out pretty quickly because it was just in my head. And so next thing I know, boom, I felt like I had like a little Ocean's 11 for comedians.
Well done. Well done. Now, it's getting ripped off by comedians. Is that a common thing in this business?
You talking about getting ripped off, meaning like stealing an actual joke, or get it? What do you mean getting ripped off?
Kind of both, like not getting paid and stealing other people's jokes.
It's not it's not common, right? But it happens. It happens fair more than it should. There's so many stories. So I read this book about I forgot the name of the book, but it was about like the old guys like Tim Allen and Brian Regan and Seinfeld and all these guys on the road getting stiff for their pay. And so it's been going on forever in like the shady club owner world. And sometimes, you know, you really don't have a leg to stand on because you have no way of proving what anybody made. So stiffing comedians and not giving them their due has been going on forever. There are some amazing club owners, by the way. Don't get me wrong. There's people that pay you. Comedians are making a great living these days. So, like, there's no complaining right now. But it has been a thing of the past. And as far as stealing jokes, yes, that has happened. It's happened to me. I mean, just in a funny way recently. Even Brian Callen, who's a friend of mine, called me. He's like, "Yo, dude, I think I've been doing your joke for the last year." And he was cool enough to call me and like say that he was doing my joke. But comedians do steal. I mean, they steal. I haven't had anyone other than Brian tell me he accidentally did my joke do that to me, but I've heard a lot of stories about comedians taking jokes. Obviously, it's been out there on YouTube. It all started when Rogan went crazy on Carlos Mencia years ago and sort of, called him out for stealing jokes. And it's not right, man. It's like you work too hard to come up with a joke and then someone steals it. You gotta go get that back. You gotta check people on that.
What's the proper way to confront someone when someone steals a joke? Is there even like a system that or like a I want to say like a tradition or a way like honor I don't want to say honor among thieves because we don't want to be promoting people stealing other people's jokes.
I think you need to know that they actually took the joke. Like nobody owns the concept of relationships. Nobody owns the concept of someone cheating. No one owns a concept. But if someone's taking your joke verbatim, I think you need to just go see that person or call that person physically and go, "Hey man, that is my joke. You know that, right?" And you have to just check them right away and just shut it down. So I don't think there's any like one way in terms of like honor amongst thieves. But for me personally, if I see you doing my actual joke, I'm going to call you, I'm going to Instagram you, I'm going to find you, and I'm just going to say, hey, you got to stop doing that. And we can go from there. But like you usually that should squash it right there because how can you really live with yourself going out knowing that you're stealing people's jokes? It's just I don't know. I'm not the Batman of comedy, you know what I mean? But like I do believe in confronting people that steal your stuff.
It's especially it's so easy to get caught with social media and YouTube and everything. It's all broadcast out there now these days.
Yeah, you're not getting away with it anymore.
So true, so true. Tell us about the ensemble that you managed to put together for your film.
Michael Rappaport, Dustin Ibarra, Jeff Dye, Haha Davis, Luke Null, Ryu Go-un. So I put them together. Obviously, I had a casting director, right? So I just did it kind of the right way that you do with a movie. I had a casting director, but my casting director would kind of hint towards certain people who he thought, were on the come up or on the rise. And so Rappaport had done my other two movies. He had done My Man Is a Loser and a stand up guy that I did with Netflix. He was in both those movies, so we were friends. I called Rappaport. I sent him the script. I said, Michael, I got a part for you that's just perfect for you. Would you do it? He read it. Boom, he was in. Everybody else I kind of had just met through this casting process. And Jeff Dye, I didn't even know Jeff. Excuse me, but he auditioned. He killed it in the audition. That was it. I met with him once after that. I hired him. Luke Null, who was on SNL, I had no idea he was ever on Saturday Night Live. He was on SNL for a year and got fired, and he ended up like he was just like living in Columbus, Ohio, or something. But when he auditioned, he was way above everybody else in terms of like nailing the part. He hit it so hard. I was like, dude, I don't know who you are. I never met you before. You got the part. I'm not seeing anybody else. He nailed the part of Donnie Hefner, so he was in. Ha Ha Davis, kid from Detroit, from my area, big YouTube star, big social media sensation, 8 million followers from Detroit. His people called me. They were like, hey, man, we hear you're doing a movie in Detroit about people, robbing a comedy club, blah, blah, blah. We want to talk to you. I had dinner with him, and he was so funny in person, so charming, so talented with the sketches that he did online. I just gave him the part. And then I wrote it towards his voice. So I kind of like already had his voice in my head. So I wrote it for him. And then Dustin Ibarra, who I knew from the comedy world, who I also knew was a great actor, he auditioned, he killed it, and that was it. I had my leads, and then from there I just did started casting the secondary parts. But my leads, I kind of just went through the casting process and just had. I think I kind of struck gold with these guys.
I was actually interested because your cast seems to come from all different type of backgrounds. You would
Yeah,
imagine like a film like Stealing Jobs, you would try to target a bunch of stand-up comedians
jokes.
to be actors, in a film like this.
Well, I made sure for stealing jokes, I made sure that they were comedians, but that they could act. I didn't want to take a risk on because you never know what you're going to get. If you just get comedians that actually never acted and never hit their mark, and you could be wasting a lot of time and money. It could go the other. It could go south. So we auditioned. We had some table reads, and I made sure everybody was just in line with proper acting ability. And that being said, they all had such distinct personalities. I also gave them the flexibility to where, just hit your mark and do your thing. But I'll make sure as a director that we get what we need from you. So I kind of stayed flexible, but I knew they could act, and I already had known, like I had watched enough of all their stuff and all their clips and reels. I was confident they could all pull it off. I wasn't worried.
Is it much easier for comedians to be actors than actors to be comedians?
Yes, actually. Believe it or not, I know it sounds crazy, but like if you're funny, you can be dramatic. Most funny people have a dark side. Most funny people have a dramatic side to them. But most actors and dramatic actors, they cannot be funny usually. It's very rare Comedy's a gift. If you're funny in real life, if you're a funny person, but you're also a good dramatic actor, yeah, you could pull it off. But most people who are just dramatic actors have a tough time with comedy. But comedians can do anything basically. I think comedians, I always said this, if comedians could get organized as human beings and all come together, they would take over this whole game.
Absolutely. Now, what was your
Yeah.
approach on the film production for Stealing Jobs? Was this in I want to say you mentioned before your hometown of Detroit, or I mean
Yeah.
you're up
I think you keep calling it stealing jobs, but it's stealing jokes. Did you call it stealing jobs?
stealing jokes.
Steve, bro, I gotta correct you early. Uh, Maybe you could just go stealing, dude. But yeah, stealing jokes. I shot it in Detroit because I'm from Detroit. Dan Gilbert, one of my producers, is a big Detroit philanthropist and he's a businessman in Detroit. He was one of my producers on the movie, and there was just no way I wasn't going to shoot in Detroit. So, like, that's my hometown. It's my favorite place to shoot. It's actually the best place to shoot just because you get the city look, you got a country look if you turn the camera to the left, you got the water if you turn it one more time. So, it's geographically, it's like an incredible place to shoot. So, Detroit is that was a no-brainer. I wanted to do a Detroit story.
with you being on tour a lot. How do you find the time to actually come up with a film like this and put it into your schedule?
I try to stay disciplined where even if I'm on the road, I just get to the table like at 10 o'clock in the morning. I'll get my espresso, I'll get my workout in, and then I just basically make sure I lock in at the table for like a couple hours. And I usually just put myself on like a 5 page a day program. Like if I could get 5 pages a day on a script, I know I'm moving forward and it's just discipline. So, you know, it sounds like, oh, I'm doing so much and I'm so, but really, as comedians, we only work for an hour a night. So if you can't find time to write in the day, you're just lazy. You know what I mean? So I just, because I'm a writer and a director, I just make sure I'm disciplined enough that even if I'm on the road, I put myself at the table for a chunk of time and then I go do my show at night. So I like being busy. I don't like idle time. I don't do well with idle time. I need to stay busy. So I just basically give myself a schedule.
I always imagine comedians, especially stand-up comedians, they are constantly writing 20 hours a day trying to find that perfect joke.
Actually, no, that's actually they write, but actually the way I work is it'll a joke will come to me. I won't be like searching for a joke. Like
Hmm.
it'll hit me as a concept, and then I'll start writing it. So like I think most comedians work that way where the joke just comes to them and then they start to craft it at the table. So it's not really there's no 20-hour a day comedians that are writing. They're just living their life usually. A bit will hit them. They'll put it on their notes, they'll write it on a card, and then they'll go try to craft that piece into a longer piece. So I think this illusion of comedians sitting around writing all day is really an illusion. You know what I mean? I think it's a myth, but you do have to get to the table. But the way a joke usually comes to you is just it hits you while you're living. At least for me, I can't just like sit down and like go, I got to come up with a joke. I got to come up with it. Usually it's the concept that just hits me. Then I sit down and write.
Well said, well said. Well, let me wrap it up with one last question. What what is it like to be, a stand-up comedian, the life of a stand-up comedian is because obvious you mentioned before it's a lonely business, but your film stealing jokes, it seems like there is sort of like this friendship on tour. So what is
Yeah.
it really?
If you get a chance to tour with your friends, it's the best. But comedy is a fraternity. It's a specific fraternity of people. They only respect you if you're funny. You know what I mean? We're not trying to hang out with you if you're not. And if you get, when you go on the road, it's a tough life if you're isolated and alone. But if you get to tour, that's why like the rock comedy tour that I'm on now is so great because I pick the comedians that are on it. So I get to pick my friends that are funny. And, look, if you do it in a healthy, good way, it's like the best life. I don't complain about it. It's a great life. You're staying in a decent hotel, you're traveling to different cities around the country, you're making people laugh at night. It's the best job in the world. And, I actually love it. I don't take the negative approach of, it's such a tough grind. In the beginning, it's a grind. You're not staying in nice places, you're traveling usually by yourself. So in the beginning, it can be a grind, but it's up to you to figure out how to make it easier on yourself. And so, I actually love the lifestyle of a comedian because maybe I'm just like a nomad by nature, but the lifestyle of a comedian is a very specific thing, but it's a fraternity that you're either in or you're out. And when you're in, you're all in. So I already knew I was in this fraternity, when I came into the game. I just decided this was it. And I wasn't going to be in no other frat would have me. Let's just put it that way, you know? So it's a fraternity, it's a brotherhood and sisterhood, and it's just we understand each other. As socially off as some of us might be, we all kind of understand, you know, what we are.
Well said, well said. Well, Mike, you brought an entertaining movie and you entertain that tens of thousands of people in this country. So keep on doing what you're doing. So thank you very much for speaking to us. And um, Stealing Jokes is out now. Thank you.
Stealing jokes. Don't steal jokes or jobs.
That's right. Thank you very much. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, buddy.